Welcome to the Founders Music Lab, the music and startup community. This week we get to hear from a gent that is the definition of intrapreneur. He went from that to eventually become an entrepreneur. For those who don't know, an entrepreneur is an employee who develops an innovative idea or project within an existing organization. An entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risks in order to do so. Our guest not only took his passion for music and made a difference in an institution that was, sadly, eliminating music, but he also took it outside and created a music festival that is celebrated by musicians and fans throughout the region. We welcome Tim Moher to today's podcast. We get to hear about Tim's journey and how his love of music started and evolved. As a key member of the big band theory, amongst other bands, a composer, a publisher, music festival organizer, Tim's dedication to music is deep. You'll hear about how he successfully created and built a music program that brought music to life for thousands of high school students at a time when the institution deemed music unnecessary. You'll hear about how he saw a hole in the Waterloo region for local bands and artists and founded and built the Belmont Village Bestival. Tim's endearing and humble approach is captivating. You can't help but trust his vision and his passion, and it's an honor and a privilege to have him on our podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. This episode brought to you by Eco Coffee. Be sure to visit Eco Cafe in the village of St. Jacobs. We're pleased to offer Eco Coffee products on our website at foundersmusiclab.com.
All right, intro.
Okay.
Who are we? What are we doing?
Who are we? We are the Founders Music Lab. Welcome to episode number 5. We're still rolling. No one's died yet. Again, we just want to repeat, if you haven't heard what we're all about, we're on a journey ourselves as founders, building a community, starting with this podcast and moving to an online community where we can share ideas, collaborate, promote each other, support each other. These are all founders and musicians. And the reason we're blending the two together is that they share the exact same journey. The journey from inception, motivation, development, discovery, validation, all the upsets and all the successes, and we're all the same people. And bringing them together over coffee at Ed's Coffee Place, Echo Cafe, Echo Coffee, the roastery, not the rotisserie that I've said in the past. That's okay. I stopped drinking an hour ago, so I'll be fine. Anyway, so the guests that we bring on are people that have inspired us, people that are extremely creative, that have done amazing things. You may or may not have heard of these people, but we really like to bring them to your attention, let them share their stories and their experiences in this journey, either as musicians or as founders. And today we have Tim Moher. He's a classical musician. He's a teacher, a retired teacher now, I understand. And he is constantly creating things, building people, building music. He's the founder of Bestival, a local festival, music festival, and we'll have him talk to us about that. His experiences teaching the kids and all the excitement that comes from that. And and I can't forget that I'm here with Steve Lehmann, the music guy, and then Ed Denye, the coffee guy. And as with most great things, everything starts with a good coffee. Even though Steve doesn't drink coffee, and Tim just likes decaf. But anyways.
Hey, at least we're 50-50.
We're 50-50, that's right. We'll have an MMA fight. see if it's better to be hopped up. Anyways, Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. I love the smell. I have to say, I gave up coffee very unwillingly in my mid-40s because, as you mentioned, I was a teacher. And I would have too many sleepless nights because of the coffee. I put it together that I blamed it on the coffee. I figure it just stayed in my system. But anyway, and I always said, I only had one or two, and that was it for each day. And I never thought I had a problem with it until I just went cold turkey and I cut it out, and I was sleeping much better. And my kids the next morning were much better as a result of me having sleep. as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to kids in the classroom, they can sniff weakness, and and if you had a bad sleep, you are in.
You have to be on your toes.
In trouble, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, tell me, let's perhaps I can get you to tell us how you started. When you got into teaching, did you initially want to get into teaching, or did you have other aspirations? Let's start there.
Yeah, that's a great place to start because that's something I'm still working on, to be quite honest. It goes back. I won't be too lengthy with this, but it does go back to high school. One of my earliest memories, I think, though, actually, I was going to say high school as far as career choice, but as far as music itself goes back to when I was in grade 2.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Seriously.
Why would you say that? Why do you think it was
that
grade
was
2?
when I grew up in North Bay. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's about 4 hours north of Toronto.
Yep.
Beautiful small town.
Gorgeous.
52,000 people when I left about 25, 30, 40 years ago, and it's like the same number today, 52,000.
I think there's one less.
That's right. But in any case, I was, my older brother played the piano, and he played it very well. And he took from a nun, as you did back in the day, because there's this music academy and there are a number of nuns that taught there. And this one nun was very, very competent and also very strict. And I think both...
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And I think my brother, took the brunt of that throughout part of his life too. It was just over the top. And that was my experience at the beginning because I stood outside the window watching her teach. Now, what kind of grade 2 does that? It's like, I want to be in that seat. I want to be sitting there learning.
Is it because you wanted to be in a position where you could abuse your brother? Is that you're like, I like what that?
Well, we
like,
had our own
doing.
fight cycle that went on at home, but that revolved around the TV, fighting over control and when remote.
The Jared box.
So anyway, finally, she had a very busy schedule, so she was able to squeeze me in, and I still remember to this day, like, oh good, I get to start, and it's going to be, I don't know if it was January or February, and so very excited, and I went for about 2 or 3 lessons, of course, and then I was ready to quit. But Mom was trying to teach the stick-to-itiveness, and you have to stick through tough times, and she said, if you're still not happy in June, that's fine. Well, the reality is that I went to school literally after my lesson crying because I was sometimes just really upset with
because you were being forced.
Because, practice was
and
not
it was
something.
Piano?
It was piano. Whew. And it was something that I still does not come naturally to me. Like, if you're a really awesome player, you must practice.
Right. That's
all there is to it. Doesn't matter about the talent. The talent is, I was always told, the 1% of what makes a great musician, and 99% is the perspiration. And that is very true. So in any case, I was a kid. I just wanted to do that, play, have fun, but I also wanted to play outside. Mm-hmm. And the two collided. And so I remember doing a Kiwanis thing, and it was like, I only realized about the week or two in my head that I had this performance to do, and I had to step toward it. Anyway, story short, did the performance, finished in June, never looked back. Music was done for me. Until grade 7. Grade 7 came along, and there was a band program. And in that, where you had flute, clarinet, trombone, trumpet, percussion. And anyway.
No piano.
And I also had a neighbor that played the clarinet. And in the summer months, I may have been in grade 6, who knows, maybe in 7. And I was listening to him practice. He would practice outside, and it was The Entertainer. That's what he was playing.
Over and over and over again.
And I just loved that. And I was listening to it, and it was like, but there's something about tone and each instrument has its own characteristics. Mm-hmm. And there was something about the clarinet I really enjoyed, as opposed to the trumpet or the percussion or whatever. So I was drawn to the clarinet, and I played it in grades 7 and 8. And then come high school, there was finally a music program in grade 10. In grade 9, we traveled back to the grade 7 and 8 classroom to take our music lessons as a grade 9 class. We were probably the first grade 9 class. I went to Scholar Hall, which was transitioning, I guess, from a private school at the time to fully funded separate school system.
It was the Catholic school.
Catholic school. There was St. Joseph's and Scholar Hall.
We had a bunch of priests that came taught at St. Jerome's.
Yes,
Scholar Hall.
Father Conderi.
Yeah, he was the principal.
Yes,
great man. Yeah.
And I remember can I just sidetrack on him for one second? I remember walking up to his history lesson saying, "So, Father, what are we going to learn in history today?" He said, we'll talk about it when we get in there. And so we got into the classroom, and he said, "Guys, you're going to remember this lesson for a long time. I'm going to teach you from beginning to end an interpretation so you understand the Our Father." And so this was a 40, 50-minute lesson. And he did the Our Father word by word, line by line. In other words, he didn't have a lesson plan.
And you're like, I could do this.
Stop. Trust me, I held that memory for the long time, and it helped out a couple of times, for sure. For sure.
Taught that lesson more than once.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? You think of all the lessons that you do remember from high school, and then that was one of them.
The impromptu ones?
Yeah. Well, the ones
off the
that,
cuff?
Off the
sort
cuff.
of like our podcast?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, so then I was going to talk about, so grade 11 I went from clarinet in grade 9 or 10 I transitioned over to the saxophone because I wanted to be in the cool band,
right?
Jazz band. And my sister was amazing. She's deceased now, but she was only like 5 years older than me. She had a job that she worked at, and she saved up money, and she didn't need all the money for herself. And I was her little baby brother. She thought I was her child. And so she bought me my first professional saxophone, a Mark 7 at the time, that brought me all through university.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, but in grade 11, we had a band. And in that band, a bunch of guys, we were all together having a great time down in Toronto. And who do we hear? We were at a competition. It was the International Music Festival. And we saw all these bands from the United States that were coming up to this festival. And they were fabulous, and their flute section was big as our band.
Yeah.
And we were just so intimidated and felt small, but they had different categories, and so we actually felt really good in the end.
Yeah.
And we did well. But in the night at that evening, they had a performance by none other than Maynard Ferguson.
Oh my gosh.
That was it. That was my moment where I said, I'm going into music. So I brought that news home to my parents,
And they said, "Oh no."
Yeah. So I've reeled this so many times in my life, and they said, "Yeah, but how are you going to earn any money?" They wanted to know, and so I said, "Well, I'll teach." I was, but I have to say, I was disappointed that they weren't honoring the intent of me wanting to and the passion.
Yeah.
Like they gave me the lessons. They gave me the opportunity to perform, but it was almost like, well, that's fine and dandy, but you cannot do that for a living because it doesn't provide you a living.
Right.
Were they performers themselves?
Oh no.
Neither one?
No, my mom was grew up on a farm.
Okay.
And interesting you ask, because she was the one that got the piano lessons in her family, but her brother had all the talent musically, but he was never
Never had
given
the
the
opportunity?
lessons because he had to work the farm.
Right.
That's
right.
the way it was. And
Right.
we're talking about the Great Depression days, right?
And farming
That's what
here
they
in
went-
Ontario?
Right in Ontario. It was in Tweed, Reed area outside of Belleville.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and they had that farm for many, many years till my grandfather, who I was just mentioning the other day, is one of the only people that I know that lived in the 19th century. He was born in the 19th century.
that
And it's
crazy?
just,
Yeah.
it just sort of jogs things around for you and says, wow.
And the things that
this
they
is
went
so
through.
Cool. Yeah.
The history, they've been through
Absolutely.
all of these wars,
all of the wars.
the discovery of
Yeah.
the phone,
And then
planes.
at age 80, they moved because his son wanted to give up the farm, and he had got a good job in agriculture in Ottawa. So they sold the farm, moved to Ottawa, and they thought, sadly he was going to pass soon after because it'd be just too much for him. No, he lived till he was 98.
nice.
He was all good.
Amazing.
All good. Lived a good life. Anyway, so back to my passion. And so then that put me on this trek of saying,
So
but
how old were you then? When you made that decision, I'm going to
grade
play this.
11,
That's
whatever
grade
that
11.
is. So probably 17-ish, do you think?
16, 17.
16, 17.
So
put it
you're
back
at a
that way.
time in your life where you're starting to decide, who am I?
Yeah.
I think typically, generally speaking, most kids are trying to separate themselves from the parents
Yep.
and from what they're supposed to be doing to what they think they want to be doing. Mm-hmm. Some take a long time to figure it out. You were able to figure it out at 17.
Yeah. For me, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Wow.
And-
I took another decade at least, and I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah, I just figured it out a few weeks ago with this podcast.
But there's still an element, like I was saying earlier, that where I am still figuring it out. Like,
Right. I
it
don't
is-
think we ever.
No, it's like
Well,
saying, why are you here? Whoa,
Yeah.
And so it is a big question. Is it just the music or just the coffee or just the new business that you're going to found? It's one of, you could go pretty deep on it, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You could use a few
But
psychologists.
I also think that people that find what they love to do, because if music is the thing that you know that you love to do, people that find what they love to do, they're just whole doing that. And then you have to do other things to be able to continue
Survive.
to do that. Yeah, for the survival mode. But you found that at an early age.
Exactly. And when you really think of all the musical greats, they all, like, it's one thing to say music is my calling.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to carve your identity within that and maybe even to make something new.
Yeah.
Because it's all been, I'm sure, I don't know, I have no idea, but I'm thinking Beethoven and those guys, they still had people before them. And it was like, well, how am I any different than the guy that taught me how to play? And it's just a question that I think that you're, as a musician, as an artist, you're forced into that reality of, am I enough? Is my music enough? Am I just playing the tape, so to speak, or am I making something new? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, you could probably say that about engineers.
Absolutely.
Or restaurateurs, chefs.
Well, we all mail it in at
architects.
some point too, and life sometimes takes over. And I think all of us in our careers have been at that moment, especially kids, and just the hours of the day aren't sufficient, so you end up mailing in part of your life, whether that be, the parent, the professional, the husband, whichever the case may be. There's not enough hours in the day, and you kind of. But can you find your way back to it, and can you find your way,
Or stay consistent to it, or
to be able
as Tim's saying, the how are you going to be better than the one before you? Like, how are you going to be differentiated? How are you going to move forward and continue this journey? What's so special about me? How am I going to do it? Where's the confidence going to be coming from? Mm-hmm. This is sort of what I'm...
That actually reminds me, we were going to eventually talk about me and education, but if you go back a little ahead in time now to university days, I was studying classical saxophone at University of Western at the time. I think it's just called Western now. And
Did you have, what year were you there?
80 to 84. Actually, I was there in London, 80 to 87. I hung around.
Okay. I was wondering if we had the same teacher.
Well, we did for a little bit because I did 4 years under Van Ostrand. That was his name. But then the gentleman that you're thinking of, can you help me with his name?
Doug.
Doug. We shared him because the year after, I took a leave, I guess you could say, for a year, and I worked at a parish, and yet I still wanted to continue the sax, and so Doug was my teacher for that year,
Right?
And I did another recital, and yeah. So anyway,
Tim and I had the same, because I studied classical saxophone at Laurier. So we actually
Did you
had
know
the
that?
same.
No,
teacher.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But he was at Western and at Laurier?
Yeah. He taught at both.
well, yeah, he would move
He would go one day a week here, one day a week there. And,
which still happens to this day.
Oh, yeah,
with the prof.
yeah, because it's not full time, especially these days.
And I remember when I said I was working at it was the university parish where I did that for a year. It was like working as a stipend, as a pastoral assistant, giving you experience in that field. And some of my minor work at university was around religion, and I became interested in that. So this was kind of I don't know. My plan was to do 4 years of music, go down, sorry about that, down to Humber and continue to work on my jazz chops, and I got sidetracked, so to speak, with another passion, this religious journey, and then I remember the guy that I was working with, the priest there. I said, so one of our first meetings, I said, so what do you see me doing in this role? And he said, well, you're a musician, and I'd love you to just bring as much of that. And I was just ready to leave that behind because it was like, okay, I did that for 4 years. I just want to try this, whatever this is. And he said, no. You got to take the music and bring it to the people and, do all these things. And I'm going, this really, I'm not going to escape this.
Were you getting tired of it, or were you just thinking
it was just, I
was
think
not going to go anywhere? Or
I don't know. To this day, I think it was just, I really was intense with it, especially in the last 2 years of the 4-year music program. And you know how I mentioned not as much into practicing, and I did my final recital, which people that do education don't do the final recital usually because they're just there to learn how to teach. But I always wanted, remember, to be this performer. And so so I asked if I could take this one course, and all that the course is a 1 hour recital at the end of the year. And it doesn't sound like much, but it's a huge
An hour
commitment
of repertoire is
of heavy duty repertoire, right?
Yeah.
And so I asked if I could do that in my 4th year, and they said, sure, not a problem. So I was actually taking a first year performance course in my 4th year of education. And so it was really like kind of cool because I was doing what I wanted to do finally. And do you know what I thought going into the music program? I thought that the performance program was for the gifted, musically gifted, not for me.
Yeah.
And it now.
So you didn't think you were musically gifted?
Not to the extent that you needed to be. The people that were over there, they were the gifted ones.
Right.
And yet now, and even then, I began to realize I could have been that person in that program had I wanted to be, you know? I just saw limitations.
Oh, you set that up for yourself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting how we do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's sort of, that has, you know, I've talked a lot about this. It's sort of a personal conversation, but about me and music and family and, you know, all these things and extending beyond the 4-year music program. And I didn't, you know, long story short, I went to teachers college a year later, 2 years later, because I actually finished another degree in religion just because I was having fun. I did that. Then I went to teachers college. Then I went for a short stint to France, came back, and I was teaching. And then 28 years passed.
Hold on, I got a question now. So one of the things that I like to talk to everyone about is what's a day in the life now? We've heard about the beginning of the journey. I'm interested in, and I say this because I know what my world every day is, and I don't, you know, it's not the career or anything. It's my regular days we're in this space, and I am producing a product, and so that's my normal. What's your day-to-day normal now?
Good question. And it depends on the day because I am quote unquote retired and I'm a full-time musician and yet I still consider myself connected with community and connected with family, of course. And so how about today? A little bit of golf.
Nice.
But I was also volunteering because they were really short with Kiwanis Music Festival. It's the provincials. And I got a call from someone that knew I was into music, and they said, would you please help out? So I was doing that for 4 hours this morning.
And what did that entail?
That entailed sitting behind the adjudicator, and I've adjudicated. That's the person that judges, right?
Thank you.
And just
I'm not good with big words.
and handing the certificates to the adjudicator, the music to the adjudicator. And I've actually adjudicated myself once before, not often, not routinely, but it was kind of funny. It's like, you know, I enjoyed helping them out this one time, but this is it, you know, like, because here's the other reality. Today I did not practice, and I feel like I'm in a confessional with my Catholic upbringing right now. Okay,
Father, forgive me for I have not practiced.
Forgive me for I am not proud.
To be fair, the day's not over. So
Yeah, that's right.
And you know what else you also had to say when you're a young boy, a person in a Catholic school, you had to say, and it has been how many years or months or days since you last practiced?
Bill and I both said, could you imagine?
So anyway.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
Catholic school as well in Spain.
But if you look back, Ed, going back to your question, if you look back a month ago, I was deep into stuff with the big band theory that we're in. It's a 17-piece big band. And our leader, Jim Edwards, kind of throws stuff at us. And I use the word throw intentionally because I had to basically learn the flute again.
Oh.
And I say again because it's sort of peaks and valleys with the flute. And so I was just really dedicated every day, getting the tunes down. But then it's so funny because as a musician, you're saying, I wish I only had time for the kind of music that I want to do. And then when you have that time, you fill it with, and possibly other things, you know what I mean? So and when I was at university, my wish was, I wish that I had my own house, my own place where I could practice instead of having to go to a studio, travel for a half an hour on a bus or whatever. And I could just pull the horn out and practice. And then it's like, once you retire, once you have your house,
none of
once
that
you
happens,
no longer, well, it's not that it never happens,
it happens
but
once in a while.
Still takes a thing, right?
Discipline is the word.
It is.
Yeah.
Right.
It is 100%. And
Also, you brought up the big band theory. Now, I don't think you were at that night. Steve took me out.
Oh.
Steve was conducting
For the rehearsal.
for the rehearsal.
Yeah.
For your chart.
Yeah, and I think I had to miss, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the thing that blew me away is that they had just gotten this music, and there was 17 members in this.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
They pick it up right away. They go
all
through
very
it
good.
one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
and
you
it was
stopped,
there.
you backed up a bit, and then they finished it. Yeah, we got it. It's like, what? And it sounded incredible.
Yeah.
Like everybody was tight. Everybody was, I mean, for me,
Uh-huh.
I'm rookie guy. But they were just sensational. I don't think the people listening don't realize how intensely complicated the music is that you do. So it's not just a matter of, going to school, practicing, and trying. And you're talking about living your life around it as well, and trying to maintain that discipline with all of these other responsibilities that you have, and what sort of the difference between being an educator and being a musician. Would you say there's two different things?
That's such a good question. Because they might be different things, but one person can totally embody the two for sure.
Yeah.
There are so many people that I know that, especially at my university day, actually a lot of the people that, there's very few real like Paul McCartneys in the world that just go out and that's their gig. They just gig. That's Taylor Swift. That's like fiction for the majority of musicians in this world.
But that's the aspiration
suggest.
in a lot of cases.
Yeah, but also the aspiration has to be, is it just about me and the stage, or is it about me, the stage, and the people, or me, the stage, and the student who wants to be on that stage playing with you in the future?
Right.
It's I think music brings out all of the multi-faceted reality of community and
community. That's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say.
You're feeding me that.
I did. Yeah, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah,
I got another one.
yeah.
No, but
Absolutely.
that's the same thing with founders in local tech companies or opening up coffee businesses. It's all encompassing. It's community. It's the reason that drives you is not just the saxophone. It's the relationships that you develop along the way, and the collaborations and the fabric that gets woven as a result of all the people who are involved with it.
Did you ever go back to piano?
That's a sore question.
This
to
is
ask a
hurting.
musician.
Jeez, I did not
There's some guilt.
anticipate any of this. First of all, I thought it was going to be me and Steve talking. I feel like it's 3 against 1 here. Wow, these are good questions.
Hold on. I'll ask you
Okay.
why. I can explain
Yeah.
why I asked that. And it's not because of I don't know anything about music to begin with. So I'm kind of out of depth here. But when I was a little kid, and the question relates to because they're soloists. And I was thinking, my mind was wandering about sports and elite sports, and it's also there's particular individuals. Michael Jordan was one guy. There's not many of them, just like there's not elite high-end musicians that are focused solely on that one thing that you talked about. But then when I was a little kid, we went in Spain to a concert, like a pianist's concert, and the royalty of Spain were there as well. So you can imagine the elegance, and I was a little kid, and we knew the Chilean who was playing, the gentleman. My parents did. And at one point, I was in the suit and tie and the cravat and whatever, and had to put flowers out on one of the runways of the main stage. And then he gets up there, and his name was Ivan Nunez, and he starts playing. And in the middle of the concert, the thing that I remember the most was not if he was any good, because I was really young. I was probably 6, 7 years old. But someone in the audience, in the middle of this concert, pianist's highest moment in life, somebody's pearl necklace broke, and all the pearls hit the ground and bounced. And I thought it was the best thing ever. It's the only memory I have of that, was the noise of this thing and the total disruption of everybody in the venue. But I thought a soloist, a pianist, and that's why I asked if you had gone back, it is a different type of career. It's like that exceptional being, because they're always alone. You were talking about camaraderie in music, community. The soloist is a different journey altogether.
But I still think the soloist is still trying to connect with the audience. Like they're...
Oh, yeah. And they're micro-focused one person. And,
right.
It is a very solitary thing.
And that must become super solitary, because they can only practice alone, they can only perfect alone, they can only... Whereas sounds that you had the ability to connect to music, but you were always part of a bigger volume of sound, or you're a component of that makes it go. Like 17 people in this band sounds amazing. But anyway, sorry, I distracted.
So going back though, just to quickly answer that, is that yes, I did. I revisited piano several times in my life. The first time it was in, every second or fifth year, it would be like, okay, I got to get back at this.
Did you think of the nun?
Yep. In fact, I went back to the same academy, but it was in different location, different nun, and she wasn't into slapping the hands, so that was good. And
she'd have none of it.
But yeah. Oh gosh. Okay.
Oh, dead joke.
And she prepared me. You had to have grade 6, right, Steve? In order to enter into a university program, you had to have a minimum level of piano.
Okay.
And so that was grade 6, even if it was like inadequate grade 6 or this sort of speed version of it. But we got it, right? And I was so happy when I got to the program in London, because there were other students that never did it, but they had to do it in order to graduate. And so they're plugging away what I was doing
course.
As an extra
So it was
course.
extra work.
Extra.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but then I was enjoying it. And then summer, I was maybe waiting tables or something. And I thought, I'm going to start up. I did my grade 6. I'll do my grade 7. So I did that. And then I did that 1 year, or maybe over a 2-year period, I forget. And then I stopped. I was like, okay, done. And then I thought, well, grade 8 isn't that much. And so then I did my grade 8, and I enjoyed that. And then another, I had kids, as I think I mentioned. I have 4 boys.
And you enjoyed that?
Very much.
Yeah, okay.
Very much.
Just in case they're listening.
Very much. and then, yeah. But then after going through the years where they're super, super needy and dependent on you, I thought, you know what? Why don't I try my grade 9? So, of course, you have to back up and do your 6, 7, 8, and then finally your 9 repertoire, because you lost everything. I wasn't consistent.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I did my grade 9. And I thought, I really need to choose what I'm going to do musically, because my sax is suffering. I am not gifted in the sense of being able to do this and that. Like some people can literally pick up 5 instruments and play them equally well. Some people can compose as amazingly as Steve, plus play an instrument on stage at, center and square. Like
Yeah.
My bank is a little more focused.
Right.
And so I accepted that. And I thought, okay, so I'm just gonna drop the piano. And I honestly probably haven't played since. But I haven't regretted that, because I've really come along in my sax playing. And not so much like I'll never...
Did that piano give a different perspective to your sax experiences?
No, it just gave me the perspective that pianists really have a lot going for them. And it's just a whole lot of respect for piano players. And... what was I able to bring over? Not a whole lot, maybe. I don't know.
I think more than you might think, because if you have a musician who's only ever played a single note instrument like a clarinet or flute or a singer, who hasn't spent time on the piano, they haven't spent time with an instrument that plays chords at the same time.
Right.
So what these chords sound like.
And how everything's supposed to sound together.
More than somebody who hasn't done that.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why you have to have your grade 6 piano before you can study clarinet at university. So you can literally play your harmony theory, your theory homework, which is chords.
And when you really think about the piano, one of the greatest things about it, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's exercising, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's exercising both sides of the brain to a degree.
The only exercise I got is pushing my piano around.
Those things are heavy, man.
They are.
I have a blue one. You guys are all laughing, but I have a blue one.
I've seen it. It's
Someone
heavy.
gave it to me.
That's
I
one
had
of
to
the
push
heavy
it.
ones. Yeah, it's big.
But in a very physical way, it's the left and right
Yeah.
hand. You have to be able to sort of think from, operating both. And there's not a dominant hand when it comes to piano, because both need to be able to do it.
I think it's interesting that you bring this up, because the perspective of getting into music as a kid, you're not exactly sure what you're going into it for. You may like the sound of it. You may you started off with, you heard the sound of the clarinet from your neighbor playing a song that you really liked, and that sort of kicked you off in that direction. I remember I was put into, they wanted to put me into, they being my parents, mostly mother, to go and take accordion lessons.
Oh, classic.
Classic, yeah, because the accordion salesman would come door to door.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just hated the sound of it. And there was no way I wanted to get into music if I had to go through it via the accordion. Sorry to all the accordion fans out there. Just like the bagpipe fans. I just didn't get it. It wasn't until later that I really started to get a feel for it. But my friends who were into different instruments, who focused entirely on one instrument and kept that focus for the longest time, were far more successful than the ones who were trying to do all instruments all the time. And I've seen these people who can pick up. My son's one. He didn't have the discipline, and Steve can attest to this, because Steve was his teacher. But he had an ear, and he can pick up. And because of the piano that Steve was teaching him, he could pick up the guitar and start playing that. And then he picked up the bass and started playing that with some instruction. And now he has this whole range of instruments. He hasn't pursued music. He thought about it at one point, but realized once he got to university that, these people they're doing it for a living and a passion. Mm-hmm. He didn't quite have that living and a passion, but he had the enjoyment of it. So people getting into music don't necessarily have to get into it for, I need to learn this instrument, or I need to be able to play all these instruments. I can just enjoy instruments.
In part, that's the difference of my definition of the gifted and the ones that aren't. Some people just do things for fun.
Yeah.
And some people, when it goes to a level of what Bill's accomplished here, it seems more the gift.
Bill or Tim?
I mean, sorry, Tim. I'm looking at Bill.
Because I really haven't done much. Tim's the one that's done it, and he's saying that he's not gifted.
No, but the rest of us see
But
you as
you are.
such. Because you had the gift to continue. And I mean, being gifted does not necessarily equate to the excellence of that, but being gifted in the discipline, the desire, the passion, the continuity, the development, the learning, the educating, like those are all the things that make you gifted in one, sphere of focus, which is music. And it's amazing to see from the outside looking in, from someone, like I said earlier, who knows nothing about the topic, but really loves, because when you're speaking as a musician, and it's something that we can learn from you. Yeah. And we're learning about that gift. So it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the number of times that I wanted to just quit and not be a musician, forget about piano or sax or whatever, but just a musician because of the discipline that it required. It was just every stage of my life. It was just like, I just don't want to do this. And, I only began to enjoy practicing I remember closer to my 40s. That was after. There may have been one little
Is that because your kids were teenagers and you could be in a room and make noise and not have to hear them?
No, actually, to be honest, it was the reason is because I learned a little more about the art of practicing, and that the art of practicing is about just having fun with problem solving. So, I could do this. It could be da-da-da. But can I do da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da? At different intervals.
Can you say that again?
No.
Because that was the art of practicing. It's
yeah.
Because I think for a lot of music students, practicing is the chore of practicing.
Yeah.
It's not the you learn a way to.
Same as sport.
It can be a sport, yeah.
People
that's true.
that drop off their kids that think they're there to have fun, and it's an obligation to comply with what their parents made them do.
So there's the dream of being here, way up here as a musician, and this is again where I still struggle with this. This is where you want to be, or you hear yourself, but here's where you are. And if you could see my hand, I'm going much lower.
Yeah.
And,
for all the TV viewers.
But the reality is that if you want to get to that higher level, it's not in a day, and it's by having fun at what you're doing, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself nuts, and it could be just something really, really minuscule.
So it's the journey. It's enjoying the journey,
and you just tinker with it, and then you get better. And then you build on that success, tinkering with this on the next day, and this, and I sort of learned that at university, where things were broken down. When you break things down, whether it's a recipe, as a chef, or, breaking the elements down with coffee, I'm sure, like, if you break it down so it's not overwhelming and it's manageable, then you can have a little more fun and creativity.
Well, and you practice and you make mistakes, and you can understand why you made mistakes, and then you can supersede them. That comes in the practice area, in the practice arena, and that's the part that you're practicing with yourself. Mm-hmm. And so there's no lying to yourself of, I practiced this really hard and you didn't. So either you do or you don't. But those people that are passionate about doing that will practice it with joy and with interest.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a discovery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like every practice is a discovery. As you mentioned, you were playing the sequence, you played it a little differently, and then before long, you're doing these other things.
And do you know what I just started thinking about? And this is maybe just going a little off to the left here, but that our conversation, number one, I'm really enjoying it. And number two, it's reminded me of I was in the audience to hear Weather Report in the 80s. And you might say, well, what's that have to do with this conversation? And as far as Weather Report, by the way, is Steve. Do you want to just they're
a fusion band, Jocko and
okay,
Jocko
okay.
Jaco
was thinking about the
Pastorius
clouds.
and Wayne Shorter on sax. And so all these heavy weights of jazz in one band.
Nice.
And when I heard them, and this would have been in my 4th year of university, and we'd go and pay $4 at Ontario Place, and we'd see, for $4, we'd see 4 heavyweights playing at different hours in the Forum, which was a very small center stage that moved around.
Oh, cool.
Oh, it was just
wow.
everything was perfect. And that was in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. Late 80s. And anyway, but they were very talented. And what I learned in that performance is their ability to communicate. And part of communication is listening.
Right.
And so when one person was taking the lead, everyone was zoning in on what they're doing, and they're finding the vibe with that person and responding in a subtle way. They're still under, but and it was just like, wow. So this is what music is about.
Yeah.
It's not taking notes from a page and saying, here you go, a little bit of Beethoven for you. I mean, I have no problem with obviously.
No, but I get it.
But you know what I'm saying?
I've had to play that music and looking at it, and my perspective was, it's notes on a page, and I have to figure out how to get the right sequence and perform it. But that's not performing it. Unless you're listening to all the others that you're playing with.
And the spontaneity, like we've been interjecting here and there, you know, and you could do the
this
same
is a
thing in
jazz
jazz.
quartet. We're
It is.
right here.
It is. It is. It's wonderful.
Thank God I don't have to play
Ed,
an
you're a
instrument.
musician. You're a musician.
This is what it's like.
But then when you're teaching people, you get to sort of tell them one day you might be able to play in a group where you can have that kind of communication at that level. And it's still, unless you're a solo person, it's still really inherently a community event when you're playing in an ensemble. If you've got a band, if you've got a string quartet, if you have a saxophone quartet, 17-piece big band, you got a rock band, you got your people. It's your team. You got your group of people. So it is inherently a social thing, and I think that's what's driving us with what we're trying to do. Is to have a space where we can make new social communities, social connections. But you have created at least twice that I'm aware of communities for musicians, for students, and then also for performing opportunities in the greater community. So as an actual founder, you can maybe speak to that.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
You don't need any tricks to treat yourself to the haunted caboose. Possessed by a full body with notes of creepy cacao, phantom peanut, and twilight toffee, it's bound to keep you up at night. Don't let us scare you away from trying our haunted caboose blend. Eco Coffee, being good, do good with a smile.
And now, back to the podcast.
So I was with the Catholic board, and I was spent 2 or 3 of my years, I guess, mainly at St. Agnes, St. Matthew's, St. Luke, to name the schools. And I keep forgetting that I actually started a little bit at St. Agnes. That I always go to that. Oh well, it was at St. Matt's where someone said, Rob Daly said, "Hey Tim, why don't you just rent a couple of clarinets for the kids and just let them play with it, and no, you don't even have to perform or whatever." And that just de-escalate, like just took the stress. It's like, you're not asking me to open a music program because I know that's a lot of work, and I have a grade 7-8 classroom. I have to say that our board basically I'm going to be blunt, like they pretended that their basic music would take care of itself. It had a magnificent, in the Bergauer days, history where they had itinerant music teachers and all this. And then And then there was nothing for 20 years. And that was my time period with the board, where I went into the elementary after a brief stint in high school, and there was nothing. If you were at a school and there happened to be someone that could sing, you got that singer leading a choir possibly, great. If there is no one and everyone in there was, either a jock or a scientist or whatever, there was virtually no music, and it was like, open up, let's do an essay on your favorite rock group. And
that was music class.
That was music class.
What were you teaching this whole time?
All over, but mostly core. So I was grade 7, 8 primarily, but I spent 4, 5, 6, grade 1, 2 for a couple of years. But I was teaching math, language.
That's core.
Core.
So I was educated in the States, so our terminology was different.
So core is just like you are it for that student,
for that group, and you had them all day, or
pretty much. Now in a few of the schools, eventually what they did is a bit of a rotary, so that one of the grade 7, 8 teachers would take science, another geography, another history, and I would take the arts, which was visual arts, which I did not consider myself, and yet I love diving into some of that stuff. And, what do you start with? A book, right? It's like, here's how to create this. And it's like, okay, where's the ingredient list? It's like a recipe book. And so that's how I taught in a few workshops, visual arts. But then there's drama, and I love drama. And I think I was really connecting with kids that way as well. We did a lot of musicals and that.
So you're saying the board wasn't really behind it, though. You're sort of doing this on your own.
They didn't have any formal. They might argue with me on that, but there really wasn't a formal music.
Wasn't. Yeah, you're right.
You agree? Right?
Oh yeah.
You grew up in it.
My
I
mom
was there when you were there. Remember, I did a co-op.
I
did a co-op at his school. Yeah.
And we just decided.
When were you at St. Agnes?
What was that? 90-ish.
Well,
like 90, 91,
89,
92.
Because I
89?
started Laurier
okay.
and 90, and I did co-op in my last year, so at St. Agnes.
And I remember there was an extra, literally, now this would never happen today, but an empty portable, right? Or it was empty for half the day, let's say.
Yeah.
And so the principal at the time, Ted Ramluck, and he said, yeah, you could use that portable. You can rent the instruments. And, we even charged the kids. I don't think it was all paid for. I know. It's sort of that. I don't know. You can speak to the American system maybe, but I think they do charge in the States as well. But anyway, point is we got the instruments in there. We did a 6 months to a year with them, and they had a blast.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, that lasted about 2 years because that's how long I was there.
Mm-hmm. It's really unfortunate because my son and daughter went to St. Agnes in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And they didn't get the exposure.
Oh, yeah.
And then they went to another school.
Yeah.
There was no exposure. There were some people who were doing it on the side. But the whole problem solving, the whole reading, there's something to music and the arts, quite frankly, that is supportive of everything else. It's foundational.
So the reality, people always want you to justify, that your math scores will go up if you take music or, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that with both sports and with music or the arts, not only are they intrinsically beautiful just for what they are, but all of these problem-solving things, all the community aspects, all of the stick-to-itiveness, where you don't give up, all of those things. If you're in insurance down the road and you're going after that promotion, that's what's you're gonna draw from the stuff that you learned in grade 7 on the clarinet.
Yeah.
Because tell you, it is tough. When I was at university, and Steve can attest to this, you had to learn all the different instruments. Every time, like a little bit of clarinet, a little bit of flute, a little bit of oboe, a little bit of violin, a little bit of cello.
The education people did.
Education people. I forgot. Yeah.
I had to learn how to write for them all.
Right. Right.
That was the difference.
Yeah.
So we would
So
have-
every time I switched over to a new instrument, it was like I'd never played an instrument ever before. And
Really?
all of the frustrations that you experience when you're a little kid trying to learn how to click that note on the piano properly and for the proper duration, all that. It was that frustration is always there every time you learn new. And so, yeah, when they're in grade 7, they're learning, they're problem solving. You can cheat in math. You could figure it out in your head maybe, or something, and just, or multiple choice, and you get the answer. Never an opportunity in music. Not if you're performing.
Sports or
sports,
music.
or even, we were talking a couple days ago, the restaurant business. I grew up in the restaurant business.
right.
And there's another place you really can't mail it in. You don't want to poison people, you don't want to kill them, and you don't want to get hurt. And knives and ovens are hot, and you have to be awake and aware.
And you also have to rely on other people.
Absolutely, it's teamwork, and if not, it doesn't work. And so you learn this camaraderie in a different way but you have to perform.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to throw it all down while you're doing it, because there's some liability to yourself and to everybody around you if you fail. Music must be the same way, in that you, like you said, everybody has to do it. Sports are the same way. When teams become teams is not when individuals are better than the rest. It's when they actually coalesce into something bigger, better, a community of like-minded direction, right?
Yeah.
And same with businesses,
Absolutely.
founders, startups.
Yeah, and we would do just like the sports folk. That we would be in the gymnasium, and we'd have to fight for gym space, because we became at St. Matthew's a larger organization where there were, in the end there were about 40 at the peak. There were about 45 kids in the band.
That's crazy.
And this is something you developed.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was not part of the curriculum.
And it was just a
volunteer.
question,
Yeah.
Tim, would you bring a couple clarinets in? Like he was so smart, because he tricked me.
Yeah, but I think he saw that you were the
Yeah.
kind of person that would
Yeah.
take it seriously and do a good job.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you, that's why you're on this podcast.
Yeah.
All right,
Right?
I
Because he
have
could have
another
said that,
question
and
now.
you could have done it in a meager manner
Yeah.
and had 2 or 3 kids doing it, and then you would have fulfilled your duty.
Yeah.
But that's not how we think.
No, I know. It's true. I don't know. Going back, there's something that you said earlier, and we were talking about discipline and listening to the clarinet player, and me dreaming, I love that sound and I want to be like that. Well, one of my strengths, and this comes into the founder for sure, is dreaming possibilities.
Exactly.
And in fact, it's just like, you don't go from you usually have an idea, but you can shelve ideas. You can put them in the parking
dime a
lot.
dozen.
You're done. It's like, I could give you 5 to 10 to 50 reasons why you can't do something. And there's certain people that just say, yeah, but, or
Yeah,
yes,
sure, why
and,
not?
or
Let's do it.
what if
I
I
said that
talked-
about Ed. Like when I asked him to join, it was like, sure, why not? Ed's that person. He's
Yeah.
It's that same mentality of, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be doing this. I know nothing about coffee, but I'm doing it. Or I've never created a big band before. These kids need music, and there's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And so, it's one step at a time, the founding, and I think we're touching on, yes, there's the community aspect, but it's also like, it's not all on you. Mm-hmm. It's once you go
that's why you
beyond
bring
2 or
in
3
other
people.
people.
You have your team.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Steve, I hit you.
Smack your team, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be gentle with them at the beginning.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so that's the great thing, you start moving along, and yet I have another, just before we leave this section of the conversation, another story at St. Luke's, one of my proudest moments there, I didn't build up a program. I was now an itinerant music teacher at this stage of my career. Last 7 years of my teaching.
So you're going from
so they
school
brought
to
us
school
back.
to
Itinerant, is that a good thing as a teacher?
Yeah, it means you go from place to place.
It has a negative connotation.
Not for this. It's a great
Okay,
thing.
good.
It was a,
Yeah.
it was
Just
a really
asking.
good program because it actually brought an expert.
Yeah.
What he was doing at one school was being brought to multiple schools.
Right.
All schools.
Oh, I see the value in it. I
Yeah.
just meant the word itself. I'm a word guy, and itinerant's connotation is a little, suffering.
That's just you.
All right, that's possible. All right, before we leave the topic of the founding of these things, the groups, the music groups in schools, what's the harder audience? The first time you step out in public to perform your music, or the first time you step in front of a bunch of kids and have to perform
Coordinate
for
them.
them? Yeah, which one's the harder
organize them,
audience?
teach them.
Or, yeah. Well, it depends if I had a coffee. And undoubtedly, actually, I would say that teaching is like if you're prepared as a performer, you have a very good success rate possibility. Like if you hired the right people to play with you, you've done your work, you go out, even if you have a bad sleep, you're only going to miss a couple of notes or something, but you still brought everything that you worked for. Whereas, in the teaching world, you could put all of the work in place and you could really say, this is the lesson I want to execute. And it all falls apart because the person that walked into the room had big attitude or someone died or whatever. You're dealing with a whole different, whereas an audience sits there and they listen to you.
There's just fewer unknowns when you're performing live.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's fewer unknowns.
Well, I think the latter is admirable because I wouldn't be capable of that interaction with a bunch of kids every day. I couldn't do it.
No.
But so you were able to get, when you were doing, going from school to school to school, you were finding the people who could support the ongoing within the sort of the evolution of the program within all these 7 different schools. Like it
morphed. It changed at that point in time. So you had to change with it because I wasn't at one school. I couldn't grow the program. So what you're trying to do is just sustain a nice relationship with them when you're doing the itinerant. So there's some negatives about the itinerant. You were talking about that in a way that you're moving around and you don't connect with them every day in, day out. And when you have I couldn't remember, it was hundreds of students I had 1 year because I was at 7 schools.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
And at 7 schools, and if you think of 30 in a class and how many classes, 550 times 7. So close to 1,000 people and that you're addressing every week. Mm-hmm. And names don't come naturally.
No.
I'm with you on that.
I was caught so many times. They said, "Mr. Moore, you don't know my name?" Mr.
Sorry,
Moore, it's June.
Sorry, clarinet kid number 2.
But if I meet someone that I taught many years ago, what I will do, if I see them in a grocery store, I won't say, "Oh, hey, it's Mark," right? I'll say clarinet, and I'm almost always right. Yeah.
But you developed this to a fairly big program. You don't do that without developing the team. But I think the big lesson here was adaptability within an environment that sort of constricted you in being. It could be much bigger.
Well, okay, so here's one thing, just building on that, is that I brought them to St. David's High School to perform once, and I remember the director being there. And in fact, the director at that time, his son was in my band.
Oh, okay.
And it's so cool because he was beginning to see what a change this made in his life. And he was probably thinking...
Are you talking about a school director?
The director of the entire board.
Of education, not
So
like
this is
a
before,
musical director.
Yeah. And this is before we had the itinerant music program.
Right.
Now, there are other people that can most certainly take credit for establishing the itinerant music program. I didn't have a say in that, but I'll tell you, I bet you it was germinated by what was happening at St.
You were
Matthew's.
a proof of concept.
Proof of concept.
You were absolutely proof of
Right.
concept.
Right.
You got
And
in front of the
you
right
said it was
person.
making a difference in his life, in the director's life, or the
No,
director's
in the
son's
son's life.
Okay, yeah,
and
that's what I
I'm
thought.
sure the director and the family, they all saw that.
Yeah, I
and,
bet.
and thought, wow, what if
And
we
he's
were
still
able to do this for every child in,
Yeah, and
in
he's
the
still
board?
making music today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Bunch of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Like there's so many kids that have taken, so many people who have had instruments taught to them in their youth, either outside of school or inside of school, and they sort of break away from it because it's not available to them or they don't have the community to support them. And then ultimately they have their kids and their kids get older and now they find time for themselves again. Now they're thinking of picking up those instruments again. And now those seeds were planted when they were 7, 6.
You know, I was saying to you, and I don't think we were on, that I was volunteering this morning at Kiwanis Music Festival, which was actually provincials. But I was at a category where it was lower strings, adults.
Oh, really?
And it was fabulous because you're looking at these people and they are not high school.
Yeah.
They're not university. It's a 29 plus category.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and most of the people that I were looking at were in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And they're saying, you know what? I want to get out. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And it was so
But it's
cool
for
to
the
see
enjoyment
that.
of it now because
Yep.
they don't have the aspirations of being a
for the
teacher
enjoyment. And also one gentleman said to me, he said, I want to be a model for my son.
Oh,
because
interesting. Yeah.
because I want to accompany him on his journey. I don't want to just say go and practice.
Yeah.
Practice here.
Well, the nice thing about the Kiwanis Festival is that it gives you something to work towards. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing, as you know, when you're teaching. If you have something to work towards as a group or an individual, you've got a timeline. The Kiwanis Festival is in 3 weeks. I'm sorry, I can't help you with this. I have to practice.
Right. Right.
And then you get there and you have to do the thing. And then once it's over, then you can start. And you've probably had kids in competitions and
absolutely.
ensemble,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we've all done it.
Yeah.
But having the thing,
Except for Ed.
Shaking.
having the thing to work towards in music, I think is very valuable.
Yeah. And I did want to go back just for a moment to the St. Luke experience because there's something special there that I'll remember for a long time. And, as an itinerant, you didn't get to stay at the one school 7 days a week or 5 days a week. And so, but when I was at this one school, there happened to be a core group of people. So I was teaching all the instruments to all the grades 7 and 8 students, large school. But there was a core that were really into this. And I didn't organize a thing. I made myself available at lunch hour and I said, there's the keyboard, guitars, drums, whatever you want. Just do music. If you're here to gab and to be silly, out you go. I didn't even have to say that with this group. But they sat there and they started creating music, mostly covers.
In their free time.
But then people were joining in. And then toward the end, people were saying, can we listen? And so then there was an audience. And then we just decided, let's do a coffee shop. And so
You're
we
describing FML.
Yes, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
You fish. You
I found
you
it.
got me now.
Wait a minute. delete. I can edit this out. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's
No, that's just it. That is because creating that space.
And it has to be a space.
All I heard was coffee shop.
Yes.
Oh, I should have worn my T-shirt.
Yeah.
St. Matthew's coffee shop on the front.
Nice.
No coffee on the back, just great music. That was our slogan on the back of the T-shirt. No coffee, just great music. They were too young to have coffee.
Yeah.
We could probably sell those.
We good. Yep.
Anyway, I even brought that group because they're doing so well. I brought them into my studio, not mine, but the one where I go, Cedar Tree with Rick Hutt. Very generous person because he's 100% pro.
Oh, he's an
100%
icon.
pro.
He's an icon
And
in this area.
I said, Rick, I'd love to bring this group in. And I never think as a sound engineer, I think as an idea person.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it look beautiful if they just come in and record? And he's going, yeah, and I have to tune them all.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did that. We had a single, and we released it to CBC. And they all knew that they were going to be on the radio that morning. I remember, I forget the guy's name, but it was a principal in our board text me or did a message to me, Tim, they sounded great, and it was
That's incredible.
Wow, that's cool.
yeah,
That's incredible.
It was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever run into that group anymore? Or any
No,
of
I
them?
haven't
Have you ever
seen them.
them?
Some of them are here, right?
Yeah, they're still playing.
Yeah, still playing. I don't do the bar scene.
Neither do I.
Yeah, so that's where they're at, and
I can't stay up that late.
That's great, But so then, So then,
Well, now we have to talk about the big thing you founded.
well, I think equally big. Yeah. So
It's a pretty big thing.
Well, it's funny because at the time it wasn't intended to be at all. It grew. So founding something, creating space. Well, my reason for Bestival, as we know it today, was founded out of a dream, but also a frustration.
Right.
Because I was applying to be, as a musician, to be playing at a festival in town. Not to name festival, and so trying. But there was a thing about that festival where every second year it was the same performer. Like,
Right.
literally. Like, I could tell you. And it was just, and I was pulling my hair out. And I thought, this is not right. This is like, I know I'm not the most talented. I know that A, B, and C people over here are also very talented, but they're not at that festival. It's the same names. And so there was a frustration there. And I thought, there's got to be a stage for everyone. That we are such, and I keep saying over the years that we are so rich culturally.
Oh.
There is no difference. And I know this is an exaggeration, might sound like way too much, but, whether it's Chicago, New York, or the country place, Nashville. That other place.
That other place. Oh,
There's a bit of a music community there.
There's a huge music community, and
massive.
yet there's not an absence of that talent here. There really isn't.
lot
Like
of it,
we
yeah.
have,
Some-
and we're
I am
beginning
blown
to.
away by a lot of the artists I've never heard of that are from this area.
Yeah.
And I ask myself, why don't we hear these people more? Mm-hmm. It's because we don't have the venues.
And so there we go. That was one of the answers was, well, I'm just going to make my own festival, not for me, so that I can play at it. But one of my mandates in my own head was, or rules, I don't know what you want to call it, but was that if you play at Bestival, you wouldn't be playing the next year or the next year, because we want it to be a place to really explore the depth of our culture locally.
Right.
And you can't do that if you keep saying, well, come on back with the Clefs of Moher, come on back, or, whatever. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same show every
yeah, that really it does not inspire.
Have you been able to stick to that?
Yes and no. At the beginning, it's a learning curve because I was a one-person show right at the beginning. It was just like, I want to throw this festival. And I was imagining what I experienced in the 80s. I went to Beaches, and I never went to Beaches Music Festival, Toronto, where they had the big stages and everything. This was on the street, and you'd walk one corner, there'd be a little concert band. You walk the next corner, there'd be a sax player, maybe with a guitarist. Walk to the next corner, another one. So I thought, that's what I want. Just people playing that are invited. And I did have that. But it was around May, June. And I didn't know if I had funding for this festival because I walked around in November before and just walked to the business and said, would you be willing to put $100 towards a little music festival, blah, blah, blah. They said, oh, sure, yeah, that sounds good. So I knew I did my homework. Okay, that's added all up. Oh, that's about $2,000. I should be able to get some people out. And then, but I applied to our Waterloo Region Arts Fund. And I applied big. I can't remember, to be honest, if it was 15, but I think it was 20,000. That was the maximum you're allowed to apply for. So I applied for that, but the thing is that you don't find out until June. And so I didn't know what I was working with, what budget. And you know what? To this day, when we are working on our festival, we never know our budget until about July 1st, to be honest.
Right.
It's so frustrating. But anyway, because not all...
Sounds like a really good system.
Yeah.
It's
Sounds like no one that knew anything about music put those rules in.
That's right. And we've spoken to Canada Council and to Canadian Heritage and
how'd
all
that
these,
go?
No, they say, yeah, we understand. Yeah, 100%.
This is,
and then it's
when we talk about this thing that we want to build, I think we're on the same page. We do not want to rely on government funding or municipal funding this needs to be self-sustaining because the hoops that you have to go through to bring something as wonderful as Bestival to life is insane.
Yeah. So it is, and that's why I think I lasted. I didn't even count the years, but it's about 5 to 7 years at the very front of the festival. And then I backed off and I'm not even on the board now, but I'm still in the fundraising, which is a huge component, but it's off, and so I sort of have my summers back, but I still have the stress in the winter of saying, are we going to get this fund?
When is usually what time of year is the festival? September.
Yeah. So it's oddball time and I chose that because there's lots going on in Kitchener. We have the Blues Festival, we have the Uptown Jazz Festival in Waterloo. There's multicultural festival. So July and August, and then there's the Brewers thing.
And the Rib Fest.
Rib Fest.
So you could do.
So you had to find your own.
If you do get the funding cycle in June, maybe it should be a winter festival. And then do it outside in the middle of January.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, this is a guy who's never played an instrument in minus 10 degree weather.
Santa Claus parade.
Yeah. You need an airport hangar or something.
So anyway, you just deal with it. And in fact, we even applied this year, and we won't find out if we're successful until after. Which I didn't know when applying because, anyway. So the bottom line is I said, can we have an exemption to use that money if we get it for the year following? They said, sure. So, which would be really an interesting thing, too. It's about community and trying to look at the state of the arts in the region. That's this funding thing that I'm talking about. But anyway, back to Bestival. In June, I didn't know street corner, maybe a little trio, duo, that kind of thing. And then someone said to me, I was going to Midtown Yoga, so that is in Belmont Village.
Right.
Oh, and I also drove up and down Belmont Village a number of years going, this is a beautiful little village. Why isn't there a festival here? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, it's ripe for it. And I was attending this yoga place, and I told the person my dream of building this festival. She said, "Well, you're going to close the street, eh?" And I went, "Oh, no. No. And then she kept pushing, and I got the 20 grand from them. Plus, I came up with, you know how I said $100 each? Well, I increased my ask to 300 when I actually went to them, and then I found some other larger funders. So I had maybe a budget around $28,000 that first year, and we just had one small stage, another even smaller stage, and that was it. And it was one street that was closed. We did close the street.
That's amazing. I was the chair of the Business Association, St. Jacobs, and that's a regional road. You know, if you think a city road's hard to close, try a regional road. And we've tried for years and years. And it's amazing that we've never been able to get them to budge the region on doing something that's positive for a community and creating an environment that's safe, that's, you know, that you can do these, you know, whether it be entertainment or any other sort of, you know, tourist building thing. We could never change the, you know, the rules on the, you can get there, but it takes money, it takes power, it takes,
Right.
But you know what's odd is we had a film crew come in and film a Holly Hobby movie from the States, and they just spilt money everywhere, and they were able to close Main Street several times over the course of a few weeks when they filmed the Holly Hobby movie. So it's, you know, it's
Holly Hobby.
Do you remember Holly Hobby?
No.
Oh, that was a
it
character. It was like a young girl character from the early.
So was this
like
a movie that
Midwestern.
made like a whole lot of money and
It's an after-school special style movie, and it was
it was enough to close the street down?
Oh, they
where
had
a community event could
in
not?
the middle of COVID, they were able to close streets. They were able to have people without masks, and this was in the middle of mandates because they had that
Right.
license to print money. You know, interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, that's another battle.
And I remember early on too thinking, wow, I just wish I had a team, you know. And I never considered, until Bestival, I never considered myself a leader. Because I was a school teacher, I was given a title, teacher, but not. And even though I led things, I didn't really dwell on that. It was out of necessity that I led things. Didn't consider myself a natural leader. So here I am now doing Bestival, and it's like, I don't really have what it takes to lead this. I wish I had other people that would help me with this because I can't do it all. And I'm telling you, I had like 3-4 people maybe by the time showtime came in that first festival. And then it grew into a board, and now there's up to 7 people on it anyway. But developing that sense of
Can you point to
team,
someone that was the first one to step up and say, you know what?
support me?
Yeah,
The very first.
the very first.
Yes. I was going to say one other person, but now, remember I said I went to the yoga studio. David T. was the owner of that. I think it was Tivolic. I'm not sure. But anyway, he owned the yoga studio, Midtown Yoga. And I was there, and I was telling him about it. And he's been around, and
he's well connected.
different parts of the world as well. And he was all for this. He said, "Oh, we started a small festival in Vancouver once, and it was in just a back alley thing. And yeah, I'll walk around with you." And so he basically walked around the village, introduced me to
you to
people.
everybody. There's this thing that I just absolutely love called The First Follower. And you probably have seen this, the dancing guy on the hill. Have you seen that video?
No.
It's a whole lesson. And if you, David Sliver, I think is, it's close. But if you Google it, it's called The First Follower or Dancing Guy on the Hill.
Okay.
And it is about the first follower. And so in this segment, it's about 3 minutes long. They're at a music festival on a hill, and there's this guy dancing. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just sitting down on the grass listening, but there's this guy all on his own. He's the nut. He's the crazy guy. Mm-hmm. and everybody's looking at him as this crazy guy. And then all of a sudden, somebody jumps up and starts dancing with him. And this is the guy known as the first follower. And he starts doing the same dance. And so this guy is doing, the original guy sees this guy and he teaches him. He doesn't force him. They make this dance together. And then so he doesn't look as nuts as he originally did. But then one of these first followers' buddies comes up and joins in. So now it's not just a nut and a follower. It's starting to become a group. And now it's become more acceptable to be this nut or do whatever this nut was doing. And very shortly, their buddies come. And they start doing this dance. And this dance is easily replicatable. It's easily, and it looks like fun now because they're doing it. And by the end of the video, everybody on the hill is dancing like this crazy guy.
Awesome.
And that is only because of the first follower. If that guy
Somebody
had
the idea first.
Somebody had the idea, but everybody has ideas. If you don't have that first follower to come lift you up, and it gives, not only does it give the nut confidence, you're not alone.
That's really interesting. That I want to see that, but
it's,
I would because it resonates for sure.
Yeah,
and that's,
I think for all of us too. Like, we can talk about
it legitimizes the idea.
I remember I wanted to say something about coffee as well. When my office was the Bicycle Cafe.
Oh yeah, in Belmont.
In Belmont Village. Were you familiar with it at that time?
Yep.
And that was a beautiful space because it was a space where, of course, they served the best coffee in the village.
Second best.
Second best, I meant. Did I not say in the village?
Which village? No.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. No.
Yeah, but in any case, it was great to connect with people there because you could sit down and hash it out and say, and that's where I met Andrea Deering. She has all of the what do you call it when you create images and
graphic design.
And you're trying to create an image for the festival, like you're branding.
She
had that ability to brand our festival, and it went through a couple iterations where
as it always
she
does.
said it's always been called Belmont Village Bestival, but as far as what that looks like, as far as a graphic, it changed a couple of times, and then she sort of zoned in, and then she zoned in. There's been about 3 iterations. I think
It's an evolution. Branding is always a moving target because you learn new things. As first year is going to be, you think it's something, and then at the end of it, you're going, well, but there was this, and then it becomes a personality, a human, and you may name a baby when you first have the baby, but as a year later, you start seeing, you give it nicknames because it starts evolving and getting its own personality. So very rarely are you going to stick with a brand that you set at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's very commonplace. So that meeting in this coffee,
they just
everything revolves around coffee places.
That's what I'm trying to say.
We're having a guest. We're having a guest next week, and when you look at her profile on LinkedIn, the last thing she says is, "Let's meet for a coffee." And I thought, yeah, that's brilliant. I'm glad we're having her next week. But having that bicycle shop, that coffee shop where you can start bringing your first follower and some of their friends along and to develop.
And to be fair, coffee is the medium, but it's a business about people. Because without the people, who's going to drink the coffee? And so it's an intersection of something that a lot of people do or want to do, and then it's a perfect place to meet and communicate. So it's that perfect intersection. I mean, bars are good for that, but then alcohol skews it in one way or another.
And noise.
Restaurants it takes too long, and it's not always about food. But
and they want you in and out.
But this kind of, when you find the right mix of environment, there's a safety to it, there's a familiarity to it, there's an ability to open up and communicate with the person that you're intersecting with, whether it be on purpose or sometimes random. But it kind of sets itself up for that. And that's one of the things about the cafes that has always been an affinity for me, is that intersection of the people that come through. And if you're capable of catching all the information that's also intersecting, it can definitely be to your advantage to understand more about the community that you're in and the people that are involved in it. And
I was going to say, but your mission and your programming, so to speak, if you're talking about a space, and as I think you gentlemen are exploring right now as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I felt was important for Bestival is that all music was honored.
Right.
So it wasn't the jazz festival, the blues festival, the rock festival, whatever.
Yes.
It's like there's so much talent. And so that's the only thing that if I'm encouraged, and then you're also not labeled and you're not branded as the fake jazz festival, because really that's not jazz.
Right. Yeah.
And you just mentioned about bars, how, well, if you can hear one another. And so sometimes you get into places where, and that's okay for certain vibe, right? I'm not going to bash it.
It's a backbeat.
Yep. But if it hinders that communication routinely, then it's just a bar.
Right.
Are you opening a bar, or are you finding something where
this
community can connect?
People want to set up all of these bars and then have entertainment there. They're bars.
Yep.
Bars first, entertainment is like an add-on.
Yeah.
Ours is a music place with coffee and hopefully beer, and that's
and
the add-on
or something,
and food. Some sort. We got to have food, but that's the add-on. The core of it is the music and the community and the creativity, and you don't have to be a musician. You just want to have a place where you can sit down and share ideas. May involve music, may involve startups, businesses. Who knows? But it's an inviting, open space, just like what you did with the students when you were developing that program there, and just like you did with the Bestival. And I'm sure you were asking yourself, why are you inviting me to this podcast? But what I saw in you when we first met was you encapsulate everything that we are hoping to develop or bring to the table. And you've done it.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
and there's not a lot of us, and I want to qualify us by being that space.
yeah.
I think that there's a need. That's the other thing. There was a need. Remember, I just wanted to create a venue for our musicians. So there's something, I think, in our space, not to get too philosophical, but today's society, whether it's the handheld device or the politics of the time or whatever, but we need to carve out this solitude space that involves music, involves community, involves real time, real people.
Real time,
right?
Real engagement.
Exactly.
Conversation. Long format communication is lost. We've talked about this in other.
We're starving for it.
We're starving for it, but we're also it's that our children are learning to not have it, and that's a problem too. That we don't know what it's going to entail later. I mean, it fascinates me that you were an educator over 29 years, 28, 29.
Yep, 28.
And I can only imagine the change in children when devices launched, which was in mid 90s, maybe late 90s, and the change in their dynamic and their relationship and their communication with you as the educator, because that changed the world. Yeah. And it's a marked change in society.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I forgot to mention, but with that, when the 90s happened, where I started the music within a school, there are all these kids that came literally out of the walls that were wallflowers before. Like, they were just just doing their thing, homework, whatever, in, out. And suddenly they had an opportunity to step forward.
Right.
And it was, it was the ones that just weren't the jocks, and they weren't on council, or they weren't, whatever, the most popular necessarily. But they found their voice. And that was probably one of the most early rewarding things for me to see, is to see what otherwise these kids would have been just doing nothing, so to speak, and just going through the motions.
Yeah, for the rest of their lives.
And you saw their eyes light up.
Yeah.
For me as a father, one of the things that I've tried to focus on my whole life is providing an outlet of energy for my son, so that he's that calm, tranquil being that I want him to be when it's time to finish a day. For him, it ended up being sport, and we were able to channel him into sport, and he exercises heavily in sport. Music is just as much a sport in terms of activity, maybe more so tiring because of the mental acuity required to go with the playing of. But I bet you, children that find music also find a lot of peace, where this device thing and this micro dosing of information between them, it never provides tranquility or enough of an energy burn to bring them down to the level of calm that you want them to be. Like people that exercise mentally, physically, and exert high energy on something, they sleep better. They're more tranquil. They're more capable of communication. They're less stressed because they don't have that. And I call it when you see kids that are embedded in this, is that they're twitchy. They're always twitchy because they never burn that energy off. And I think that music is just a good of way to do it than sport, than anything, and it may be more challenging.
What's funny is that we have, and I think I've mentioned this before, you have the sports opportunities after you've graduated, after you've had kids. Even during you've got the baseball and the basketball or the soccer as adults. You don't have the music. We don't have music leagues. And I think that's a huge hole that's missing, and that we're trying to fill, is that let's create music leagues at this for that energy, because that energy is not only pent up in kids. It's pent up in adults too.
No, 100%.
Like if you're not getting out, and you have this loneliness, this depression, this anxiety, and it's coming from not being able to express and not being able to find a purpose or an opportunity or an engagement,
community,
a distraction, as well
exactly.
as, and just for the, and music is so soothing to the soul and to the mind, but having a venue for you to be able to do that and present that would be wonderful for people of all ages.
What is really cool, and I didn't get into choirs necessarily until I became a choir director. I joined a choir, and they needed someone to open up the doors, and that made you the director who could come early enough. But to be able to, and I knew enough about music to, I think everybody just put their faith in me that we could do this. But once we finally got it together, it's glorious. And then I got to join the Philharmonic. Oh my God. They're just listening, being part of something massive that is so well orchestrated and well directed, and everybody's working together towards a common goal, much like Matteo would do with his soccer teams. You don't succeed unless you're working together.
Right.
If you're not an athlete, music is it. Or I shouldn't, music for the most part is it.
I mean, there's some clubs and things, but it's few and far between for opportunity. But so going back to it though, this is hopefully the intramural leagues for musicians, for musicians that are young and old alike, to have a place that's safe, that's engaging, that offers opportunity, offers learning, offers communication. it's kind of a dream that's gelling day by day as we talk to more people and we get their insight and their knowledge and their feedback, because it's still not a thing yet, but it's becoming honed by discourse, questions, some easy, some not as easy. But if people are willing to teach us, we're willing to learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we build a movement. We get our first followers, our second followers, our groups.
It was interesting. I was involved this past year in a there's an interfaith Grand River interfaith or Waterloo Region interfaith breakfast that they have, and all the various people from different faiths are there, and even people that are of a particular faith or a faith, they're there. And this year we celebrated 50 years, and so we had Jim Erb, who was he was there for 49 of these breakfasts. It's at Bingham's.
Oh, wow. Jim Erb's like a big community guy here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But beside him as guest speaker was a 15-year-old from Cameron Heights.
Oh, that's amazing.
And she was phenomenal, Misha. And Misha, one of the things that she was after, and she's part of that baccalaureate program at Cameron and very gifted and all, but she said, we need space. And what does it look like and where does it have to be? And we just need space just to be, for her, it was just to be kids and to talk, to connect at a more meaningful level, maybe. With
Interesting.
Yeah, because I think that we have all the devices, the technological devices, and yet we're missing the fundamentals of what it means to connect and to be human with one another.
Right.
It's that weird, it's like the highway and the freeway, it's a little log jam right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've got to reinvent, I think, in order to be able to find out how can we create something that is meets our needs
as humans.
As humans first.
Right. I think they're saying that more and more kids are going to malls now. Not necessarily for the shopping.
No.
They're going to find other kids.
Yeah.
They're trying to find a space. And the mall is the space.
Yeah.
The mall was the space in the early days, but
if they knew that there's a space available, that would be incredible.
Yeah. Tim, I just want to thank you for coming. I know you didn't know exactly what you were in for, and I appreciate the courage. But you're a founder, so you're a sure why not guy, and we truly appreciate that. Appreciate everything you've done for the music community here in this region, and we look forward to having you part of our community, our group, our followers, our movement.
As long as there's decaf, I'll be there.
Yeah,
we can do that.
Whip it up. All right.
No, very exciting.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot. That was fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Cheers.
It wasn't too painful.
No, it was surprising, actually, because I had in my mind a couple of things that I thought I could talk about, and I don't even want to look at the clock right now. Are the Oilers playing yet? Oh, yeah, they're...
Okay, time to go wrap it up.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, cheers, guys. Bye now.
Introducing Eco Coffee's Spotted Frog Blend, where bold leaps meet smooth landings. Why choose between light and dark when you can have the best of both? Our 50-50 blend combines the bright, fruity notes of a medium roast with the rich, velvety depth of a dark roast. It's balanced, it's bold, it's ready to jumpstart your day. With a body length of about 20 centimeters, bullfrogs are the largest frogs in North America, as well as the champion jumpers. Kind of like this coffee. Big flavor, high performance, and a smooth finish every time. Spotted Frog Coffee Blend. Take the leap.